So I have already moisturised and now I'm going in with a primer. So as it's the summer, I obviously want it to last all day and all night. And I also want my skin to be really glowy. So I'm going in with this highlighter face liquid, and this is by 17. And I'm just putting that all over my skin, just underneath my foundation. It does create a little bit of a white cast, so please excuse if it makes me look really pale, but it's just going to make the foundation a little bit more glowy. Obviously that is optional. And today I am mixing two foundations. I'm going in with MAC Base and Body, which is quite a sheer dewy foundation. So to add a little bit more coverage, I am going in with the Clinique Beyond Perfecting Foundation to add that little bit more coverage. But they're both pretty dewy, but I will be setting it with a powder just so it will last. And it does look darker than my skin, one because I used that liquid highlighter, and two because my body is a little bit more tanned and I don't put much fake tan on my skin anyway, or on my face, sorry. So I'm matching it to my neck, as you can see. So I sprayed my brush with a little bit of Fix Plus to really help blend the foundation in, and this is a Morphe brush. I can't remember the name, so I will list it down below, but I'm just really buffing that into the skin all the way over. And this brush is amazing if you really want to pack on that coverage, because you can really press it onto the skin. So I kind of do like circular motions and then patting motions on the areas where I want a little bit more coverage. So to add coverage and to highlight as well, I'm using the MAC Mineralise Concealer in NW20 just underneath the eyes, and it's a little bit lighter than my skin tone, and I'm using more of a pinky tone as well to hide any darkness. And I'm using the Mineralise one also because it's a little bit more hydrating, and I wanted the skin to be nice and fresh and glowy, as I said earlier. So just buffing that in and then just finishing it off with a damp beauty blender just to really work it and dab it into the skin. So as this is a summertime look, I want the skin to be really bronzed and glowy. So I'm using a cream bronzer, or this is a concealer by LA Girl, and it's called the Pro Conceal. I'll link the shade down below, but I'm just putting that in the areas where you would naturally get a suntan. So the top of the forehead, a little bit on the nose and on the cheeks. As this is a nighttime look, I am sort of putting it towards the back of the cheek as well, because you know, I wanted it to look natural, but then I also wanted to give my cheek definition as well. So it's up to you whether you want to contour, and I also blended that in with a duo fibre brush. Use a synthetic brush or one like I'm using, because it will just help blend the concealer out, as I do find it's quite hard to work with. And remember, if you are using this one, you only need a small amount. A little bit does go a long way. So as it is a nighttime look, we obviously want it to last, as we are using cream products, so we don't want them to move. And especially if you've got oily skin like me, you really want to lock those products in place. So I'm using a translucent powder because I don't want to change the colour of the bronzer. And I'm using that same Morphe brush and just pressing the powder into my skin. If you are on the dry side, you can skip this step, or you can just apply it to the centre to get away any shine. So moving on to the eyes, I am now applying an eyeshadow base, or you can use an eyeshadow primer. This will prevent any creasing and it will prolong the wear of your eyeshadow. So I always set that eyeshadow base with a powder, so you can use a cream colour powder or just your normal face powder, and that will just ensure that there is no tackiness, and it will help your next eyeshadow blend that a little bit easier. And you can take this all the way up to the brow as well, just so you can create a nice blank canvas. So the first eyeshadow that I'm starting off with is Peach Smoothie by Makeup Geek. This is a nice peach shade, as the name suggests, and I'm using that on a fluffy brush so it can really diffuse the colour across my crease. This will also help your darker colours blend that a little bit easier as well, and it will create that sort of gradient effect when you do go in with the darker shades. And I do actually apply this colour a couple times. I really do keep going over the crease with my brush because I feel like it really creates a nice blend for the next eyeshadows. So I do layer it a few times, but you can just keep going until you're happy with the intensity. And I do switch brushes to a slightly smaller, fluffier brush, as I wanted to get it right into that crease a little bit more, and again just to create a really nice base for the next eyeshadow, so it's nice and smooth and blended, because that's what we want, a nice blended eye look. So I know it is boring and really repetitive, but I do just keep on blending. So the next eyeshadow I'm using, I think, is Creme Brulee or something like that from Makeup Geek. I will link it down below for you, don't worry. And I'm using exactly the same brush, but I'm starting to apply it more on the outer corner of my eye. And then whatever's left on my brush, I just bring that through the crease. And again, I repeat this step a couple times until I'm happy with the intensity. And I carry on using this brush because it applies it and blends it out at the same time. So just follow your natural eye shape and just go across the crease, back and forth in windshield wiper motions. So I felt like I needed more of a medium taupey brown, so I found this one in the Morphe 35T palette, or it could be the warm, I'm not sure, I'll link it down below. And I'm putting that in exactly the same area on the outer corner and through the crease. And then I just go back in with that fluffy brush to ensure everything is nice and blended. So to further deepen up the crease, I'm using Foley eyeshadow by MAC. And this is a really nice warm toned brown. It's almost got a really nice burgundy tone to it as well. So I am focusing that more on the outer corner as well, and then whatever is left on my brush, I just sort of sweep it inwards so it's really nice and diffused across the lid and through the crease as well. So I do go back in with the same shade and a little bit of the taupey brown just to diffuse all the colours together. And I do wipe off my brush and then I just go over the edges as well, as I felt like it wasn't as blended as I like. So I do repeat this step a couple times. I know I always say that, but I feel like going back over it, it just really helps get that nice gradient effect. So the next eyeshadow I'm using for the lid shade is called Liquid Gold by NYX, and I firstly used a 242 brush by MAC to apply it, and it just wasn't coming out how I wanted. When I swatched it on my hand, it was so pigmented, but you know, when I put it on my lid, it was just, you can see now, it's just not coming out how I wanted. I wanted it to be really pigmented, so I tried using my finger and it just wasn't working out. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend these eyeshadows or this particular eyeshadow. I know NYX do a lot of amazing products, but you can use a different colour if you want. Amber Lights by MAC is a really similar colour and that's really pigmented if you wanted something similar. Or from the Morphe palette, they do amazing colours as well, but just use any gold that you have at home. And as you can see, I'm applying that all over the lid right up to the crease colour. So yeah, you can see my face there. So because it wasn't as pigmented as I wanted, I went in with Melon Pigment by MAC, and you can see this just adds so much more dimension and it just intensifies it that little bit more, But like I said, use any gold that you have at home, and I'm using that same 242 brush to apply it, and I'm putting my eye taut slightly so I can really pack it on and sweep it back and forth, and you'll get that really nice foiled effect by doing that technique. So this step is optional, but I'm going in with a little bit of glitter to add a bit more texture and dimension to the look. So this is a glitter by MAC. I will list some similar products down below if you can't get your hands on it, but I just sprayed my face with Fix Plus, and then I dipped my finger in the glitter and then dabbed it onto my lid. And then I just went in with my brush just to smooth over by the crease so there are no chunky areas. So to tie in with the warm tones, I'm using I'm Peachless by Makeup Geek, and just to lighten it slightly I went in with Nylon by MAC, as I just wanted it to be a little bit brighter in that area. And I also wanted the brow bone to be super highlighted, so I went in with that same shade just underneath there with a small brush. And you don't need a lot of this product, a little bit goes a long way, otherwise it can look way too frosty and way too intense, but you can use whatever highlight that you prefer at home. So I'm just going to finish off the skin, and I'm using Mineralise Skin Finish in Cheeky Bronze by MAC, and I'm using this all over the cheek as it's a nice peachy colour and also a highlight, so it's kind of like a 2-in-1. I don't usually use a shimmery product all over the cheek, but I really liked the finished result. It looked super glowy and really warmed up the cheek as well. And of course I cannot go without highlights. I'm using the Marylou-miniser by the Balm, as I wanted everything to sort of tie in together and sort of be nice and gold and bronzy, so I'm using that on top of the cheeks, and I'm layering that a couple of times just so it's super highlighted, and I just basically hit all the high points of my face. So moving back to the eyes, using that same taupey brown from the Morphe palette, I'm using I think this is a flat definer brush, I can't remember the number, but I am really working that into my lash line. So don't worry about it being too blended, you just really want to work it into the lash line, all the way from the outer part, all the way to the inner corner. Then to really diffuse the edge and to really blend it out, I'm using a pencil brush and Peach Smoothie just to go over the edges so there are no harsh lines. And then with the Foley eyeshadow, I am going back in with that brush and again working it into my lash line to create a little bit of definition and a little bit more smokiness. Then again, sticking to the bronzy tones, I'm going in with this liquid metal by Illamasqua called Enrapture, I think it's called, and I am just pressing that onto my waterline with an angled brush, and this just creates a really nice metallic finish in the eye, and again if you've got blue eyes this will really make them stand out. So we won't be creating a winged liner today, but if you do struggle with getting your false lashes really close to your natural lash, then you can just apply a little bit of black liner just to sort of merge the two together and help hide the seam. So I'm just creating a really thin line all the way across, just in case I do have any gaps, then the black will disguise that. And then also I'm applying mascara so my false lashes have something to sit on. But as I always say, you don't have to apply false lashes. This look would still look really amazing with just mascara, as you've really got that glitter, so it's completely up to you. So the lashes that I'm using, I don't actually know the brand as it was just a cheap brand from Boots, but I'll have them linked below. To be honest, they were pretty shit. Yeah, the brand wasn't great, but you can do whatever you would like. So I went with a peachy lip colour to tie in with the eyes, but I kind of felt like it didn't really go. It kind of just wasn't the right shade, and as the eyes are the main focus, I toned it down a little bit with more of a nude over the top. So it still had that peachy undertone, it was just a little bit more toned down. Like I always say, it's totally optional. I did feel like this lip was a little bit better just because the eyes are the main focus. So yeah, completely up to you. I really hope you like the look. That is pretty much it finished now. If you do like it, give it a thumbs up and you'll see me in my next one. Bye! Oh my god, did you hear that thunder?